Welcome to the fourth season of the Insiders Career Club podcast. We share career tips and advice from industry experts and me, your career insider, sharing how we achieved career success. Did you know that FeedSpot ranked the Insiders Career Club podcast in the top 25 as one of the best job search podcasts from thousands of listeners, social media, and professionals? But we're more than job search. We're all about helping you have a meaningful career. It's Sindy Thomas, your career insider. You know me as an HR career professional in talent acquisition with a career spanning over 25 years. Are you looking for work or recently laid off? Don't just look for your dream job. Dream jobs come and go. I want to be your career coach throughout your career. Let's work together to find you your dream career. And if you need help with your job search, for resume writing or practicing your interview skills, career planning, or if you need to make a career transition, work with me. I can help you. Schedule a free discovery call at www.insiderscareerclub.com. Now, coming up next is a Dynamite podcast. Stay tuned. Phillip Stemann is a content creator with a significant passion for SEO. He is in Europe and in Denmark and has quite a different experience with getting into technology. He's been in the web industry since he was 13, and it all started with him opening a PHP file, and then he was hooked. Since then, he's transitioned to SEO, and he loves the technical aspect combined with the content part of SEO. He stays on top of everything surrounding SEO and shares everything he learns on his YouTube channel, social media, and newsletter. Let's welcome him into the show. Phillip, welcome to the Insiders Career Club podcast. How are you today?
Thank you very much, Cindy. I'm very good, thank you, on this beautiful Friday evening in Denmark.
Yeah, well, it's morning for me here in California.
That's wonderful.
You're wide awake and I'm still struggling to get there. So
yeah, that's how it is sometimes.
So what? Yeah, absolutely. Especially on the end of the week. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Where'd you grow up?
Yeah, I grew up in a small town called Hvidovre. It's a little bit outside Copenhagen in Denmark.
Okay.
I grew up there, and already from a very young age, I had a tech passion. I've always been a little nerdy, love sitting behind a computer and just try different things and see how things are working. And always been a curious mind at the same time, just wanted to figure out how things were working and how I could make it work in the same way. And then slowly I turned to programming when I think I was 13 years old. And I 13, yeah. And I simply just opened a PHP file back then, and I had absolutely no clue about what I was doing. I just found it super interesting that a line of text could become something visual on a website. I thought that was incredible. So I just wanted to dive into this world of programming and what it could do and everything surrounding that. And then it's scaled up from there.
Wow. It's amazing. Some people find what they want to do early in life and then others much later. So good for you.
Absolutely.
So why did you choose software and IT as your career focus?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I think it's funny because when I was very young, my mind was just, I wanted a good paying job. I didn't care what it was. And my mind landed on a fly mechanic, and I'm literally the worst ever to even hang up a picture. So I don't know how I came to that conclusion, but from there, technology just caught my mind. I was just so curious. I couldn't just accept something was working. I had to figure out how it was working, and especially within programming, which was what I transitioned into. That was what I found super interesting. So I literally spent all my, I don't want to say alone time, but almost all my spare time on just trying to figure out the programming. I found it so interesting. I just couldn't stop. I just wanted to learn more. And I remember for for Christmas gifts, I was wishing books about programming, and I was just obsessed with this subject of programming. I just found it so intriguing how
Mm-hmm.
complex it was and how much you could do and how versatile it was. It was just, yeah, simply incredible. So that was mainly the reason, because as a secondary passion, I love playing badminton as well. And I got to a point where I was quite good at that as well. So I had to
Mm-hmm.
choose whether I wanted to pursue a career full time being a badminton player, or I wanted to go over and get a real job, as my parents called it back then. But the thing about badminton back then was that there wasn't a lot of money in that industry. So you had to be really, really good if you needed to be able to make a full time income based on that. So I chose to go with the technology and software and go that route. And I haven't regretted it since. I think it's an incredible industry. There are so many great people, and people are so helpful, and we love to share our knowledge and help people along the journey of whatever it is that they're doing. And
Mm-hmm.
and I feel the same way. I think it's an incredible industry.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that. It is very true. I don't know if this for any other, well, maybe for medicine, but for lots of other professions, it's not true that you post things that you're doing and share, code or whatever,
Mhm.
or how you found a solution to a problem with your peers. I don't
Sure.
know of other industries that truly do that. So was it the aspect of problem solving and then being able to actually see what you could do with the code once you figured it out? Is that what's so intriguing for you, Philip?
Yeah, definitely. That was a huge part of it. I love math when I was younger. I still do to this day. And I think
Mhm.
about the thing about math is that you know when something is correct because then you have solved a problem and you have
Mhm.
an answer. Whereas more with copywriting and journalism and stuff like that, you don't have one way of doing it. You have a million ways of doing it. And I just loved the fact that I could solve the problem and reach an answer that I knew was correct because there was, of course, there are multiple ways of doing it, but there is at least one right way of doing it. And feeling accomplished after solving a problem, it's a great feeling. It's an amazing feeling making that check mark when you're done with a task, solving a problem. I think, yeah, that's definitely a huge part of it.
Okay, great. So you describe yourself as a freelancer. You probably started off
Yes.
as a freelancer and then a software enthusiast. And now you're a founder. And you've founded several companies. How did you get into your profession without actually going to college to study it like most people do?
Yes. I think, especially in Denmark, where I'm from, uh, we value experience more than education, at least within
Mhm.
technology and software.
Okay.
So the fact that I had spent so much time in my spare time trying to solve issues, trying to learn, that passion was what brought me to back then my first job in programming,
Hmm.
where I started part time where I was helping a lead generation website who were generating leads based on a form, and I helped make that form more customizable. Helped it make the algorithms behind them better for the user, so they got better answers based on the formula and stuff like that. So
Hmm.
overall, it was my passion. And the funny thing is that after a while, I started studying. So I had this huge passion. I started part-time working and then I started to study. And that's because I had this idea back then. I didn't know this, but back then I had this idea that I needed paper on what it was that I was doing. I needed that paper that, okay, I was able to program.
Hmm.
And the thing is that halfway through, I just realized that it's not a thing within technology and within software that people and companies are looking for these papers. They much rather want to see experience. They want to see what you have done, how you are at problem solving. And that's also why often when you go to an interview, one of the main things that goes through each interview is that you need to solve a problem. So they
Hmm.
state a problem, you have to solve it. So of course, when you go to work for Google and Facebook and stuff like companies like that, they do require a different level, but that's not the level that I'm pursuing, and it won't ever be. I like more the way I am now and the way that I work now, where it is that it's my experience that's driving me.
Okay. So can you share with us, by walking us through, your career path and how you arrived at your current positions, just to kind of give people, what your career path looked like?
Yeah, definitely. As I said, my first programming job was part-time, which turned into full-time, where I was basically working with the programming languages like PHP and HTML, helping this lead generation website generate more leads. And
Mm-hmm.
from there, I transitioned into being a freelancer for the first time. And at this stage, I was mainly building websites, more advanced web apps, no mobile apps, but simply staying in the website area. And from there, I continued to freelance until today, but mainly on the side, because after I realized in my studies that it was not the way and it was not what I needed, then I went out and basically freelance full time to then create an agency. So we were freelancing two guys in Copenhagen. We were sitting in an apartment and simply working day and night because we had this dream of creating an agency, a web agency. And it went very well in the beginning. We were great at scaling up and we got clients and we had way too much work, but we made it work. And after a couple of months, we chose to move to Lisbon, Portugal, to find more affordable cost on the employee side, because Danish employees, they require a super high salary, whereas in Portugal, it was a bit cheaper to get the employees that we needed. So that's why we took that decision to move there while we were scaling up the agency.
Okay.
And at that point, I think of course, when you create a company and you scale it, you need a lot of challenges and problems need to be solved. But we also found out within the leading management that we wanted to go separate ways. We were completely opposite of what it was that we wanted to do. So within a year or so, I think it was within a year, we closed everything down and then we went each their own way. And I took a position as a CTO in a company where I needed to help them basically rebuild the entire infrastructure for their, for their platform.
Okay.
So I came in at a point where their current CTO, he wanted to do new things. He wanted to go new ways and they were looking for a new one. And they had a very outdated system, a very outdated platform. Okay. So my first task was to completely make a new platform with a team where we had to ensure that it was actually scalable and it could scale up, because the old platform that they had, as every time you added a new user to that platform, it just became slower and slower and slower.
Oh, okay.
That was a huge thing. And we went through a couple of months where we outsourced a lot of the work, where I was in charge of building this entire new platform as a CTO in that position there. And it was a great experience. And I worked with that company for a couple of years until they were acquired by another company. And at that point, it was also time for me to try something new. And then when I went back to freelancing full time, which is also what I do today.
Okay. So I had a couple of questions for you in there. Actually, one's a statement and probably the other is a question. So when you were talking about companies looking for the actual degree, the piece of paper, as you referred to it.
Yes.
That has been the way employment has worked for decades here in the U.S. Yes. However, with the effects of the Great Resignation and the labor shortage it created, things have changed. And so now people are not necessarily, I shouldn't say people, employers are being a little more open. So yes, they'd still like to have a degree, but they're more willing these days to look at individuals that actually have the experience that they are looking for. So some of that has changed, which is probably good, because there's still a lot of people like you that would rather just do it than rather go sit in a classroom, and take all these other classes that they don't feel are going to make their skills better. I like the fact that that's happening, because for so many years as a recruiter, I worked in lots of companies tech companies included, they had to have the degree. And if you didn't have it, they weren't even going to they weren't going to consider you because you didn't have the right requirements. So that's great. And when you stepped into that role as a CTO, you did have some management experience because you were running your own company. But the two questions that I have for you from that are, how did you feel about leaving your partner, having your partnership dissolve because you were working with a team, with a partner, and now you were no longer and you had to go start your own thing. And then also when you did step into that CTO role, how did you feel about working for someone else? Even though you were, running the department, it was still working within the confines of another company that you weren't running. So we could talk a little bit about that. I think it would be great.
Absolutely. Great questions. Dissolving the partnership was a decision that took a while. And I think it also took a while for me to actually realize what had happened. And I went through a couple of coaching sessions with a business coach to kind of visualize what actually happened, because I wanted to learn from this. I really wanted to figure out what was it that went wrong, so it would never ever happen again. So obviously it was super tough, because at that point I had been living in Lisbon for almost a year, and I loved the city. It was incredible. So in that process, I also moved back to Denmark. So it was a lot of changes from going to having your own company with, I think we had scaled it to 8 employees, where you are in charge of everything and you have to ensure that everything goes well and there's money in the bank to pay salaries and so on, to all of a sudden just have to focus on yourself. It was a huge change. It was, and it definitely helped me talk to someone about what had actually happened and visualize it. That was a huge help for me. And then to transition over to the CTO role, that was interesting as well. I was super happy that I got a very free role, because the thing is that working for someone else has, since I did it and until today, I don't think I would be able to have a direct manager who would micromanage me. But that's also wrong to say. But working for someone else is completely different than being just yourself, because you have to answer to someone and you have goals you need to meet and you have KPI meetings, and there's just a ton of stuff, which is okay as long as you have the trust and the freedom from your CEO or your closest leader. So it was definitely a change, and it took me a while. And I also consulted with my CEO back then and asked a lot of help to figure out how I fitted into this puzzle. But at the same time, also tell her that it was important for me that I had freedom to run the department how I thought it should be running. And luckily, I got that freedom, I got that trust, and I would say we succeeded very well.
Great. So what do you feel are the technical skills that you need to be a software developer?
The technical skills. That's a great question. I think there are a lot of great programming languages to dive right into it today. One programming language that I've seen really tip off and basically it can do everything today is JavaScript, and it's basically everywhere. All companies are building with JavaScript. So you don't need to be an expert in JavaScript, but to have knowledge within it is a huge benefit, because then you can basically do everything. And combine that with great problem solving skills, then you are far ahead of a lot of people. That's definitely one part of it. Of course, there are still a lot of companies using other programming languages. So I think it's important to find a programming language that you are passionate about, that you find is interesting and fun to work with, and stick to that. Don't try and learn all different types of programming languages, because companies are also looking for specialists, not generalists. So really specialize in one area and focus on that and become very good at that area. And then later on, you can either, if you want, you can branch out a bit, but still stay in your lane. It's so important. And I also feel that companies, at least in Denmark, better now at hiring for one role and not, I remember sometimes seeing these crazy posts where people were looking for one person who should be able to do front end, back end, social media posting. There should also be a graphic designer and front end. And it was just insane. But
Yes.
I feel companies are getting better now at hiring specialists, so they know that they need one front end, one for back end, and so on. So yeah, definitely find a programming language you're passionate about, stick to it, and then stay within your lane so you become a specialist in that area. Because there are definitely companies who want you over someone who knows 5 different languages, maybe 10%.
Yeah, what is it? Jack of all trades, master of none, right? That saying, I don't think I have that there, but this, I'm sure you have something similar to it. It's not the exact same thing. So yeah, being able to know one area well, rather than be spread out, know a little bit about this, a little bit about that, because it
Absolutely.
really doesn't work. And I think business has become much more savvy now. It's grown so much. The business world has changed so much. And that because of those changes, it has required that they specialize, have roles that specialize in different things, because you really need somebody that knows the ins and the outs of one area so that you can work with other specialists in other areas and really do what you need to do to move that company forward.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, I just lost my questions there. Okay, so you obviously enjoy what you do. Why has being a software developer, working, and you've kind of moved a little bit from being more general to the SEO and the marketing, why is this particular area fulfilling for you?
It's definitely the technical part of SEO. So I'm still staying within technology and software and stuff, but it's the technical area which I find super interesting within SEO, because again, it is so complex, and this is the first time where I work with something where you can use technology to solve something in multiple different ways where it's still correct, but at the same time, you don't know when it's correct until Google actually gives you the feedback and the response. So it's super interesting for me to of course explore new ways, but still stay within the technology and the way that I use programming to solve issues, because it is still super complex to dive into these technical issues when you work with SEO on that level. So it's still the problem solving and the fact that I'm able to solve issues and improve a website based on programming, which then results in better SEO performance.
Okay, which helps your clients out a lot. Because the websites come up, they stay at the forefront of search. Where do you see, because what you do ties in, pardon me, so closely with marketing. What marketing trends do you see happening in business today?
Yeah, great question. I would say, of course, AI. AI is literally everywhere. And it's funny because a lot of people think that AI generates it. AI started when ChatGPT was launched, but it actually started way before that. I remember using AI tools to generate content for fun years ago, but it's just today it's everywhere. You almost don't see a product where AI is not involved, and the same goes for marketing. AI is just everywhere within marketing. That's one part of it. Another part of it is parasite SEO. It's really popping off at the moment. Parasite SEO is basically where you get websites to link to a website that is already linking to you. And it's super interesting to see these things because they're not new, but it's like people are ready now to adopt these changes. And that's why we see them now simply just explode. And it's super interesting.
Okay. I think we are on the edge of something really big happening with technology and work. And because of that, people's attitudes have changed about it. They're really more open now, don't you find?
Definitely, yes. Definitely.
Yeah. It's going to make such a big difference. Here we go here. So when you are working, are you seeing that there are, let me see the right way to ask this question. You have technology now that you can use. You talked about the parasite SEOs, parasite websites or parasite SEO.
Parasite SEO. Yeah, exactly.
And you've got Java and all the iterations of Java that there are. Do you see that there is a need for something that hasn't been developed yet? And if there is, what do you see that it is?
Oh, that's a great question. I like from the top of my head, I can't come up with anything at the moment. I feel that JavaScript has really taken that part, because what I felt before was that you could use one language, one programming language to basically do everything from a programmer standpoint. And I feel JavaScript has filled that hole, because you can do front end, back end, even mobile apps using pure JavaScript. So it's such a versatile programming language. Technology wise, I don't feel anything is missing, at least not for my use cases, what I can think at the moment.
Yeah. Okay.
But I think it also combines with that, because we have AI, that has opened up a whole new way for companies to build products. So we see a ton of products all the time. On my YouTube channel, for instance, I review SEO tools, and it's incredible to see how many SEO tools pop up every single day, because it's so easy for people to build tools now with AI. They simply just go into AI almost, and then write a prompt, and then they have the framework for a tool, and then they build on top of that. It's so fast. And I think people, they just test ideas so fast now. And that's why we see tools for the most creative niches sometimes. It's really incredible.
As you were talking, it just clicked that you're talking about people using a tool that's there. So they're not starting from scratch, right? To be able to go and do something else. And there is a trend right now in biotechnology and pharmaceutical industries where people aren't starting from scratch. And that's how the COVID vaccines were developed so quickly, because they took part of another piece of technology of development and worked on that, and it made it much faster. So that didn't take years to come up with a COVID vaccine. So
I see.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So when you were saying that, it clicked in my head, hey, that's, it's probably working in other industries as well from that same perspective. Very interesting. It's kind of like, I don't want to call it group thing, but there's a universality to it in the way that people are approaching problems right now, which is great.
Absolutely. Completely agree.
So tell us about where individuals can find the information that you review on SEO tools. You also do a newsletter. And if individuals want to find you because they want to engage you or talk to you, tell us how they can do that as well.
Yeah. So on my YouTube channel, I'm super active, and I post a YouTube video at least once a week related to SEO. And you simply just search my name, Phillip Stemann. And on my website, as you said, Sindy, I have a newsletter which goes out twice a week. One is with the SEO tool that I review, and the other one is with an actionable SEO tip that I try to boil down so it takes less than 5 minutes to implement, and everyone can do it. And then I'm super active on Twitter as well. Again, just my name, Phillip Stemann, where I share what I'm doing on a daily basis, but also just if I have great SEO tips, and if I experience or discover anything related to SEO from the work that I do, you can find that there as well.
Okay. And give us the website address.
Yeah, the website address is phillipstemann.com. So basically my name out together. Yeah.
Wonderful. And I'll put it in the liner notes too. Well, Phillip, it's been my pleasure to speak with you today. And I appreciate, the time difference. So
Of course, no worries. And thank you so much, Sindy.
Oh, you are welcome. Take care now. Thanks for listening today. Your support's a blessing. And if you enjoyed the podcast, give us a positive rating on Apple. Now, my podcasts are released every 2 weeks on the first and third Wednesdays. I need your support. Keep listening and share these career-changing, elevating podcasts with your friends, coworkers, and family. In addition to the major sites, you can find them on my website at www.insiderscareerclub.com. Do you need career help? I can help you get yourself on the right career track. Sign up for a career coaching call with me today. Now, before you go, let's speak victory over you. You've got a bright future. Good breaks are looking for you. The right people and divine connections are headed your way. And new doors are about to open for you. Believe it and stay open to it. Until next time, take care.